Architects, pull up your Eames chair, put on those black spectacles, and pour yourself a piping hot cup of strong black coffee, because we're about to delve into unfiltered conversations with architects from all over the world discussing all things health and wellness. So if you're an architect that's been searching for more balance, more fulfillment, and more overall health and happiness, turn up your hearing aids just a notch, because we've got the answers. I'm your host, Morgan 𝗪𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗧, a licensed architect, stress management consultant, and founder of The Healthy Architect. Grab your trace paper and let's dive in. Before we dive into this episode, I want to take a quick minute to tell you about the Wellness Hub for Architects. The Wellness Hub is a virtual platform of health, wellness, and stress management micro classes designed and curated specifically for architects by architects. The best part? All of the classes are 15 minutes or less and are designed to be completed during your workday. That's right, you get paid to take these classes. Are you an architect preparing to walk into an OAC meeting and you're feeling the stress and anxiety build up because the contractor might throw you under the bus again? Well, complete a 5-minute class for architects to help that stress drip off of you so you can walk into that OAC meeting calm and confident. Are you an architect sitting behind your screen all day designing in Revit and your shoulders are inching closer and closer to your ears with built-up tension? We've got the answer. Complete a 10-minute desk yoga class for architects to allow your shoulders just to drop 1/8 of an inch. You're going to feel so much better afterwards, I promise. This is just a small glance into the Wellness Hub for architects. The Wellness Hub is for you if you're an architect who wants to be healthier, happier, calmer with less stress, and more creativity. Join other architects from all around the world in the Wellness Hub for architects for only $39 a month. And because I appreciate my podcast listeners so very much, I'm offering 25% off the first 25 architects that use coupon code The Healthy Architect Podcast, all capitalized. I'll see you, healthy architects, in the Wellness Hub. Now let's get back to the episode you've all been waiting for. Hello, Scott Schwartz. How are you?
Hello. Good morning, Morgan.
Good morning.
Well, it is morning here in California.
I was going to say it's 2:05 where I am. So what time is it there?
It is 11:05 in beautiful, sunny Palm Springs, California.
Oh, beautiful. I am in Kentucky, and it is a little rainy today, but that is perfectly fine with me. I like to walk in the rain, so I'm good with that.
Yeah, my father was born in Covington, Kentucky.
Oh, yeah, I know exactly where that is.
Right across the river from Cincinnati.
Yeah. So, Scott, you are the principal architect and construction manager at Form 64 Architecture. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you just recently turned 60 years old.
60 years old, and in April, I am proudly about 2 weeks younger than the Mustang car. It was introduced about a week before I was born, so I'm not as old as a Mustang, certainly not a Model T, but yes, I just turned 60.
Congrats. What'd you do on your birthday? Happy birthday.
I went down to San Diego. My family lives in La Jolla, my brother, and we went down there, and my mom was there. My mom's birthday is a couple days before mine, and I am her 21st birthday present, she says. So,
oh my goodness.
A different era.
That's hilarious.
And we share birthdays together usually at my brother's house. So
that's so nice. That is awesome.
There's a chance to get out of the baking heat of Palm Springs.
Yeah.
Which has already started for the summer.
You know, there's a lot of Californian architects that have reached out to me, which I find is interesting. I mean, I love California, so I'm not complaining whatsoever. But
yeah,
Scott, you reached out to me over social media. And here's what I know about you. I know that you're 6 years old. You own your own architecture firm. You are a construction manager. And you somehow find time to prioritize health and wellness. So you bike ride still, you snowboard, you run trails. What else do you do?
I do a morning routine every day that some might just call it a floor routine, core, isometrics, calisthenics, non-gym related body stuff, pull-ups, push-ups, that kind of thing. So I am in a pattern that I do this every morning when I get up. That's my intention. Some mornings I sleep in, but I do find time to do a lot of activities, probably more than the average, let's say, 40-year-old architect with a family. I am divorced, I'm single, live by myself. So my schedule is up to me to how to control that and prioritize it.
Yeah. So what time do you wake up in the mornings?
5 to 5:30 is my typical routine, depending on after hours work, late night. I still do some of that.
Yeah.
I was a couple nights ago, I was working till 2 o'clock and I still had to get up at 6 because I had a meeting with a project. We're dealing with somebody in Paris. And that's a very early phone call to catch the end of their day. So
So you wake up at 5 or 5:30, and how long do you work out or move your body?
1 hour every morning is the initial start of the day. And that's phase one. Phase two is afternoon aerobic of some sort, whether it's cycling, running on the mountain, snowshoeing, some other activity where it's cardio related.
You filled out a pre-podcast questionnaire, and so I read all of these answers before we jumped on this call, obviously. I think I read them last week, and so you've actually inspired me. I work out in the mornings as well, but you've inspired me to do some very light cardio after work in the evenings. So it's just like walking on a treadmill, but hey, it's something, right?
It is something, and I think cardio, it's been the foundation of my physicalness. When I was much younger, I was a professional cyclist. So very cardio oriented, raced around the States and in Europe. So cardio was what it was all about. Now it's fitness to help myself age and do what I still want to be able to do with enough energy, mental clarity. There's physical things. I'm building a house for myself, like building. So I need to part of my fitness now is to stay fit so I can do those things I want to do in life.
Yeah. So let's talk about the mental clarity part. That's a big part that maybe I'm incorrect, but I didn't know until recently and until the last couple of years that your physical really is connected to your mental. Can you talk about your experience with that?
100%. This is the core of it for me. The ability to have something that is so driving mentally that I will pull it off physically. No matter what it is, I will make time for something that is a priority in my life. Being motivated for that compelling future vision of architecture drove us to get through school. Having a compelling vision of my health and wellness and what I can do is something that's highly important to keep me motivated in my mind. It's like my program for myself. I've set this program, I've defined it, and I shoot for it. And I make sure that I'm taking steps towards that every day. I read a lot too. So, some of the stuff I may quote some people, and I'm not going to give a reference every time I quote somebody, but I read old Greek philosophy, Epictetus, Seneca, Carl Rogers. Stephen Covey is somebody that's been very influential. He's book 7 Habits. I read that when it came out in the late 90s or late 80s, I think it came out. So that mental mindset of, what's important in my life, what's my priorities, what are my values about, and making those choices to act towards those. So to me, it's a choice, a conscious choice to say, am I going to choose to work more, or am I going to choose to focus on myself for the remainder of the day, whatever that might be?
And here's something that so I coach one-on-one with clients, with architects or soon to be architects. And something that I talk to them about and I coach a lot on is you just said, am I going to work more or I'm going to spend more time on myself towards the end of the day, right? How do you find that spending more time on yourself at the end of the day? Do you feel like that's kind of still working as well?
It is, and as an architect, I don't necessarily consider my work to be work. It's a passion that happens to generate revenue for me.
Right.
I am also in a fortunate position that this is my firm, but that takes extra effort to also drive. That vision of what I want is not necessarily working. It's pushing towards something that I desire so much it doesn't feel like work. Making that a habit, they say it takes 21 days or 32 days to consistently do something, it becomes a habit. Once it's a habit, I get up, and one of my habits is I get up, and before I even walk in the bathroom, I make my bed. Done. It's tight, it's clean, I walk away. That's a habit. If I walk away, something's not right. My habit is go downstairs, start my routine. Habit. mechanical almost. I don't have to think about it. If I have to think about it, certainly at the beginning, there's times, or after an injury or a long work spell where I've had to kind of really focus on a deadline, as we all do. Sometimes that refocus takes a little bit, but it's a choice. And when I hear people say, well, I have to, or I must, or whatever, I go, well, no, you're actually choosing to. That you're choosing to continue the work, or you're choosing to do whatever it is that's keeping you from something else. You might not like the consequences of a different choice. Hey, if I don't choose to work, money doesn't come in. If I don't choose to keep this boss happy with these deadlines, I might have something come up on my review. But it's a choice.
But I would also say, tell me if you think about this as well, or if this resonates with you. If when I come to work, I work a certain amount of hours a day. When I come to work, I have a plan. I get that job done. I go with my plan.
Mm-hmm.
I get from A to B. And because I am good at managing my time and my energy, I can get that done by 6 p.m. because I spend time outside of work working on me, working on my mental health and my physical health. And that makes me a better architect.
Oh, 100%. Having that clarity of I set my schedule every Sunday night and I do the entire week. So I pretty much have my week planned at an overview level, and I know pieces and parts that I'm going to do, whether that's offsite meetings, working at the computer, client biz dev work, whatever it might be. I have a proposal that's due tomorrow afternoon for a client. So I'll be working probably tomorrow morning to make that not normally my routine, but he's asked for this. It's a job I want to land. So I've adjusted my schedule accordingly, even though I typically don't like to work weekends.
So what do you do, like, if you have to work through a weekend, what do you do on Monday or Tuesday? Do you just continue with your same schedule, or do you kinda
I might slide a little, but if it's not, billable, that certainly makes a difference. If I'm doing a proposal, I'm like, well, that time still doesn't net me money. So go back to the money making time. I still try and keep the routine, through the week with, regular 7 to 8 hours of office work. But like I said, being by myself, it allows me the flexibility to say, hey, I cook dinner for myself every night. And after dinner, doing the dishes, I go, if I choose to, I can go back to sitting at my desk and putting together something for a proposal, which I'm comfortable doing. I don't let it get out of control. And being
Yeah.
in a relationship, certainly that's not the option, right? So there's a different dynamic with one person versus the family. I understand that, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, but I think there are a lot of architects out there just like you. Maybe not exactly like you, but they're sole practitioners, and they still struggle with keeping healthy habits, maybe more so than somebody with a family because they are their primary income, and they don't have anybody else to really
Right.
talk to about their health and wellness, and they might work from home. Do you work from home?
I do, yes.
Yeah.
Or even adding, having that other person help keep balance in your life.
Mhm.
When I was younger, it wasn't out of fear, but more like, oh, I got to hustle, right? So the tendency was, I'm not sure how many more months or weeks or whatever the paychecks are coming in. I would work nonstop. If I wasn't doing something, I was working, right? I didn't take a vacation for probably 10 years. Not healthy. Not healthy, right?
Wow. So let's reflect on that. Let's talk about that, like old Scott versus new Scott.
Yeah, old Scott would be more, let's say, lacking the confidence or the calmness to just go, it is what it is. Work when you can and keep a balance in life and realize that any day this could all end. It sounds kind of corny and say, hey, live each day
Mhm.
as if it's your last. But I started thinking more like that, like, okay, what would happen if this all stopped today? And the old Scott would have been more not panicked, but just
Yeah.
not even desperation, but just a sense of I got to keep working. I got to, and I got to try and get going and get ahead. Have worked for firms. I go back and forth between firms and my own, depending on where I'm located. And career, I've lived in San Diego, San Francisco, Colorado, Wisconsin, Illinois, now Palm Springs, different part of California. In each place I go has a different dynamic with maintaining work and setting up those relationships to get business. So I go back and forth, whether it's a company, and then, that's like you start a new company, and then the routine changes. Let's give them a little priority to show that I'm genuinely interested to start out. So, but the new Scott is, it's a daily effort, is to just be patient and relax and have the confidence to go, I'm okay if I don't work 60 hours a week. The universe, or whatever you want to call it, it's gonna work out, right? The Stoics say amor fati, love of fate. It is what it is. What I can't control, accept it. And having that acceptance of myself, what I'm capable of doing, what the universe brings, could be like coming out of left field. And I'm like, who saw COVID coming, right? You can kick and scream all you wanted, but you weren't going to change what that impact that had, period. And at the time, I was managing a very premium NDA level client construction in San Francisco for a lot of people from Silicon Valley. So there'll be like architects hired as construction managers like myself. And we were fortunate that housing, even though it was for this market that already had a house or 10, was considered necessary and allowed to continue. So construction work was allowed to continue right in the middle of COVID in San Francisco, in spite of all the lockdowns. So that was a sort of like, well, and then a lot of the architects were shut down because they didn't want y'all in an office together. And they were all trying to scramble to get work from home computers because a lot of people don't have a setup at home that's capable of them. And they're like, well, I got a laptop. And I knew people who were carrying, desktop computers back to home, trying to get set up and figuring out how to get enough internet speed to deal with the model that you're all sharing.
Yeah.
It was challenging for architects. And I was like, well, hey, I'm doing field supervision and going from job site to job site. This is, throw my mask on, go to the next one. So the old would have been probably more stressed. The new is like, wow, this is crazy. And it is what it is.
And so how did you get to that point? What was your transition like from the old Scott to the new Scott? Like the old stress Scott to the new calm Scott?
A period of time that I took some courses, I attended some seminars, and I actually went back to school and took a master's program in psychology. You might call it an alternative psychology. They defined it as spiritual psychology, but for self.
Wow.
And that was
Wow.
about 15 years ago. And it gave me a different perspective. And I came out of that more confident, not cocky, but just confident, and more understanding of acceptance, what that means. And it starts with accepting of myself and then the things that are outside. That is what I'd say is a turning point. Yeah. Back around 2010, I did that.
So do you think you're able to see the bigger picture more clearly since then?
Perspective is everything.
Yeah.
I heard somebody say, hey, I lost my job. I'm like, I heard this person I listened to says, might have been Ryan Holiday as a philosopher. He's like, well, or you could say, at least I didn't lose a limb, right? Like perspective. Somebody else the same day lost a leg. Keep it in perspective. So that perspective, stepping back on the job and its importance and what's important to me in life.
Yeah, and you're still here's the thing is you're still creating very impactful architecture. You're still impacting other individuals' lives, and you're still impacting the world through the architecture you create and you design and you construct while still being a healthy architect.
Yes, and I think it actually makes it easier and produce better architecture.
Yes.
Because in myself, I'm more calm. I
Yes.
feel more taken care of. I eat healthy. I eat a healthy lunch. I stop and cook dinner. I might get back to work, but
Yes.
to say, am I putting first things first about myself? And part of that was I created a decade or so ago was what I would call my personal visions, for myself. What is important to me? Health is important.
Mhm.
If it's important and compelling enough, what am I going to do to make that happen? I have to make some choices, and those choices might be uncomfortable at first. The habit of getting up, the habit of eating clean, the habit of getting out there and running or taking a bike ride, whatever that is. But that vision is so strong, as it is in architecture, that you end up with it. It's a program for my life, basically, right? It kind of sound corny, but it's like we have a program for a project and we do everything and we make that happen. And the clients make sure we make that happen. And I'm like,
Yes.
yet a lot of architects, my experience, don't have a program for themselves. They're letting their time be dictated by other people's expectation. 100% not not their own expectation of themselves. I'm like, don't give up yourself at the same time. You don't have to do that.
Yes. Oh, Scott.
You can maintain them both.
No, this is good. This is great.
Yeah.
Yes, you can. And actually, you're going to be better at both when you start prioritizing yourself and digging deep into who you are as a person, what your values are, what your morals are, what you believe in, what you stand for. When you figure out those things, your architecture gets better.
Oh, yeah. I have a whiteboard off to the side here where I have my personal and business mission and values that I write up there. And I will whiteboard erase it off and rewrite it. And
Yep.
sometimes a word or two changes, but it's like it's living, right? It's not just a concept.
Mhm. And then everything I do, I look at that and I say, does this get me closer to my mission, vision?
Exactly. Yes. And in those small areas, like for me, the routine of eating clean and healthy. When it's accomplished, breaking out this baby step goal, there's a sense of accomplishment, which builds, saying, hey, I maintain the diet, I maintain the health.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
did it. I kept a promise to myself. To me, integrity starts with being true to myself. If I can make a promise to myself, and the first one is, I'm going to get up at 5:30. Let's see if I can do this. And once you do it, I go, hey, I can do this.
Yeah. I preach a lot about healthy habits and they're building blocks, right? But I try to bring everything back to architecture, right? So, like, a lot of architects are like, I don't even know where to start. Well, you start with one brick in a house, you start with one line on a piece of paper. It's not like you just start day one with a full set of construction documents and specifications. You got to start super duper small and you build from there, right?
Yep. If I had to sum it all up in one sentence, and I'm going to quote somebody, Epictetus said, if you want to be beautiful, make beautiful choices. That doesn't necessarily mean the physical, but and that to me applies in all areas. So if I make the correct choices, the correct results will follow. And those choices are within my control.
Mhm.
And this moment I give up the power of those choices, I'm playing victim and I'm letting something else outside
Mhm.
control me, which I don't believe in being a victim. I choose not to be a victim. Maybe somebody else does. But so make beautiful choices and you will be too. And I think of those choices every day.
And you have to think about them every day, right? I mean, yes, things come to you naturally, I'm assuming, but you have to make a physical, conscious choice every day, correct?
Oh, as my mom says, she's very philosophical. She says, the day I got this figured out and I'm walking on water with life, it's time to check out, right? Like it's a constant learning experience, right? There is no walking perfection.
Yeah.
And part of my routine every morning when I am doing let's call it floor work, for lack of a better word, I'm listening to a number of different books on tape, whether it's Stephen Covey, Epictetus, Ryan Holiday, Carl Rogers. I'm listening to something that is positive, motivational, and ingrained in me, and I can talk right along with what they're saying. And I've done this for years and years. And as silly as it sounds, it's like if somebody does their habit, let's say somebody's reading whatever book they read for their religion every day, right? It's like that you don't read it once and put it away. It's a living, breathing document for your life. So part of it for me is to keep up on my
Mhm.
belief for myself.
I do something where I relate this back to architecture because I think that's what speaks to architects. Maybe when I get through this podcast and they're like, Morgan, just quit talking about architecture, I'll do that. But isn't that like the architecture
Mm-hmm.
practice, right? It's not like you go through school, now you're a licensed architect, and you can put a stamp on a drawing and you're done learning. Every single day we're learning and we're curious and we're exploring and we're changing the way we do things as the world changes and the architecture changes, right? I mean, we are lifelong learners. And in your health, I believe you have to be that way too. Now, I know you have experienced this, Scott. I mean, you are aging, but as an aging mother, my body changes every single year. And I have to kind of change things up, see what it interacts with and see what it reacts to, right?
Right, right.
I do have a question. I don't know if you're open to speaking about this, but was there a pivotal point where you got to and you were just like, I cannot continue being old Scott again?
That was probably back in 2010-ish when I went and did a psychology program. Um, the definition of insanity, right? Keep doing the same thing, expect a different result. What do I have to do different to get a different result? And realizing also that there is no point of completion and perfection. And myself, a good pro for me is a lot of architects, the well-known ones, are in their prime between 60 and 80, right? You look at these guys, it's like, and I certainly have gone down a field where my work is either NDA or not big published stuff. And I've been on the very technical side also, but I still know I have something to offer. As I take my experience in construction side and as an architect and go, what can I do the next 20 years, which I fully intend to do. Like I tell the young architects, I was a technical director at a firm for a while, like as a consultant. What should I do, Scott? I said, go out and learn construction, get a job on the side or whatever, or take your next gig and spend 2 years doing construction management somewhere and realizing you're not done, even though you just got your license. As we all know, we have plenty of continuing education, keep up on technology, materials. I myself, a lot of people are surprised. I'm full BIM. I use Vectorworks, but I do all my own modeling, my own CDs. And a lot of people my age go, why didn't you let a young person do that or whatever, right? The BIM jockey. And I go, it's just me. I don't want to pay anybody. I'm capable of doing it. But it took a learning experience a number of years ago to transition. I used to teach 2D AutoCAD. So I knew AutoCAD inside and out from like AutoCAD 10 way back. Then I kind of fought the BIM thing for a while. And then I worked at a firm and we had Revit, and I've been somewhere that had ArchiCAD and Vectorworks. And I picked Vectorworks and taught myself to be pretty much an expert on Vectorworks. And that was in my early 50s. And most people would say, well, forget it, right? Just not worth the effort. I have associates that I work with, and they're like, I don't have the time and energy. I'm just going to let someone else draw it for me. And I'm picturing my future vision is me in the house that I'm building up on the mountain and working from home by myself, continuing to do architecture. And I wanted those skill sets for myself. And did it take extra effort to learn? Heck yeah. Was it frustrating as heck? How come I can't get this elevation to look like I want? I used to just draw on it. Now I got to make the model work, right? So it is a constant growing in architecture. And for me as a physical man, I changed. I can't ride, but like I used to. I used to ride a bike 300-400 miles a week.
Oh, wow.
That's a lot. Most people go, well, but now if I do a 200-mile a week, that's a lot. Half. And I trail run, but I have to realize the limitations and not judge it as like, oh, it's age appropriate, but do the best I can with what I have in the moment,
Every single day, right? I mean, you wake up and you do the best you can every single day. And today is probably going to be different than tomorrow, and that's probably going to be different than the next day. But it sounds like what I love what I'm hearing from you, and this is a very enlightening conversation. I'm hearing that you have a master plan for your life, just like we have a master plan in architecture, right? And when we have a master plan in architecture, everything we do is working towards that master plan. And it seems like you've outlined that and you've designed that. And you aren't just letting life happen to you, but you're actually designing and building the life that you want.
100% correct. Act or be acted upon. It's your choice, right? So I am choosing to go, well, let's not just go by the whims of the wind. And where do I want to be, especially with a recent divorce? How does life look for Scott going forward between now and 85 years old or 90? I am either blessed or cursed because I'm going to have to work longer. Our family has longevity with a lot of centenarians, people pushing into their 90s and hundreds. So I'm like, I got to make sure I stockpile enough that I can enjoy from 90 to 100 not working. I don't know. I mean, I am blessed with good genetics. And I might live to my mom's 81 and she rides a Razor scooter, the stand-up scooter.
What?
Yep.
I want to meet your mom. She's the next one on the podcast.
My mom is an absolute
That
hoot of a lady. She's just, and you think I talk fast and energetic. I got it from my mom, right? So,
I think you need to send me a picture of your mom just so I can visualize her on the scooter. That's awesome.
yeah. You know what I do? I have a picture of her and I last year on our birthday. I'll send you a birthday picture and you'll be like, oh, and she's about this tall and I'm 5'8". My mom's
Yes, send
5
it to
nothing.
me.
But just a bundle of fire that I definitely got some of her genetics. Yeah.
That's what you get it from. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot, Scott, I want you to know. I don't maybe you do know this, maybe you don't. There's a lot of architects out there right now that are struggling, right? They're struggling with their health and wellness, whether that's physical or mental. And whether you know this or not, you are living by example, which is something that I preach. And I really appreciate you being on this podcast because I hope it gets to all of those architects that are needing somebody to look up to, are creating their master plan in their life. And they're like, if Scott can own his own architecture firm, be a construction manager, can trail ride and surfboard or whatever else you do, and be healthy and love life, then I can do that too.
Yeah, I go back to, one of the human endowments is the ability to choose. We've been given that ability to make choices. And if it got to the root of anybody saying, well, this is what's happening, I can't. It's like, well, you maybe could if you made a choice. Well, then I couldn't pay my mortgage in this house. And then the choice leads you to a house with a mortgage you can afford where you can maintain the lifestyle, if that's the example, right? So whatever, it's a result of choices.
Yeah, and then I also question, like, one layer deeper, why do you want the house that you're living in? Is it because somebody else wants it for you, or is it because you deep down want that house? Oh, no.
One of my podcast topics, and I don't know, you probably haven't listened to all mine. I just finished 42, like 6 weeks of them, so 42 videos. One of them was about why are we doing architecture and the push for what I call bigger, better, more. Why are you pushing for bigger, better, more in your project, your life? Is it because we actually have things that happen on our project because the other person at the cocktail party says this is what happened in my house? Ergo, I need to have the literally $1 million glass solar system from Portugal on my roof, right? Like, well, you don't have to because the other guy had it, I have to have waterworks fixtures in my house because my other girlfriends have it in their house. No, you don't. And I ask, what works for you? Whether that's your car as a person, your choice of housing and your choice of routine. I don't like hear people in Palm Springs. A lot of people play tennis and golf and pickleball. Kind of not my thing. More power to you. But people go, oh, well, I have to play golf to keep business going, is what they will say. You have to play golf to be able to get business. I go, you might think you do or feel you do, but in reality, no, you're choosing to play golf to get an outcome. I might not get as much business because I don't play golf, but you don't really have to play golf and complain about it because it's a choice you
It's a
made.
choice you make. But but
It's a choice you
but
made.
some people, and I once was this person, so that's why I think I can say this. Some people don't know they have a choice, right? It's what everybody around them in architecture says you have to do to get X, Y, and Z, right?
Exactly. Yes. It's that, I don't know if I call it peer pressure, but they see something else. And, our society is driven to even kids. Oh, marketed to, advertised to. I hear this. I got to have this. Mom, I need the latest iPhone. I need the latest iPad. Dad needs the latest BMW. I'm like, no, Dad doesn't need the latest BMW. What Dad needs is not another car payment, right? Maybe we wait, and Dad has more time for family and self. So it's that choice that I think a lot of people see the vision of the architect. It's a choice. I mean, I drive a pickup truck. It's a pretty nice one, but and in my recent dating life, people have said, "Oh, I thought an architect would drive an Audi." Just something off cuff. And I go, why do you have that? And well, that's what I see and we all think. And I go, no, we don't drive Audis or Porsches, all of us, right? I go, I drive a truck and I'm okay with it. And if you're okay with it, that's a choice I made and it's practical and it's realistic for me, right? So, and it's like somebody else's vision, not mine, you know, and how many people or whatever, I keep referring to the vehicle, driving a vehicle to impress somebody they don't know on a street corner or pulling up to a valet. I'm like, who cares?
Right. Yeah. Who cares? If it doesn't align to your master plan, then who cares? Because you're the only one that has to live with it. You're the one that has to live with those payments. You're the one that has to live with that maintenance. You're the one that has to live with that unhealthy body or all the tenseness in your shoulders or all the therapy bills.
Yep. Yeah.
You're the only one that has to deal with that.
And I would ask, and I've heard this somewhere else, I'm like, is what I am doing contribute to what is most important to me in my life? And I don't know what's most important to you. And if I haven't defined it, I probably can't answer that question. So first thing for me is define what's most important. Set that program. It's like designing a building going, that's a great building. I'm like, might not be. When people ask if this is a great piece of architecture, my first response is, it might be. It's beautiful, but show me the program. Did it respond to the program? Like most commercial architecture typically does, right?
No, you're exactly right. I mean, we go into client meetings when you're designing a building or when you're starting the conversation with programming, right? And so
Yeah.
when a client that knows nothing about architecture brings you a picture and they say, I want this, what do we as architects say? We say, well, why? What do you love about that? Like what
Yep.
specifically, like we ask them down to the detail, what do you love about that? Is it the materiality? Is it the facade? Is it the program? What is it? And so would I question often my clients, why? Why do you want to be healthy? Because depending on your answer, there are different routes. Like, are you wanting to be healthy and you're an architect because of your family?
Mm-hmm.
Are you wanting to be healthy because of pressures put on you? Are you wanting to be healthy because of stress? Are you wanting to be healthy because you're burning out and you're gonna leave architecture because you can't make it another day? Like you just got to ask why instead of doing something that somebody else wants you to do.
I've had careers back and forth, different pieces I've hopped around, but one thing that we can't stop is time and what it does to our bodies. And there's at some point where the physical is literally not reversible. Whereas a career choice is a sound mind, you can continue and pick or change or modify. And to me, I go, if I had to pick, if I don't make the right choice physically, I can continue mentally to make the next thing happen in architecture. And for me, my compelling future vision is this little lot that I bought up on the mountain and towards building a house up there, very minimal, very desert appropriate and modest materials, program appropriate nonetheless. And that vision of that house has me doing what it takes to make that thing happen, right? Same with my vision for my physical part. And I'll be honest, part of the physical part for me, again, at my age, is I'm not married for the last 30 years. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to date, I want to continue to put the best foot forward. Why would I not take care of myself? Because maybe this may or not have happened with people, but marriage, and then people go, stop taking care of myself. I got the spouse, start drinking the beer, hanging on the couch, no more workout. Both parties can be, quote, less concerned with their appearance. So for me, it just in my current situation, that's a compelling, motivating vision to say, hey, if I'm keeping my fitness, I'll attract somebody who also has a fitness oriented lifestyle and appreciates going out with me in the trail. Maybe they're not going to run to the top of the 11,000 foot peak with me, but they are going to go, hey, let's do a trail hike, Scott.
Okay, I'm going to make a comparison here. And I don't know if people are going to like this or not. But if I was a client and you walked into the room and another architect walked into the room that didn't care about his or her health and it showed physically, I think I would go with you just based on your physical appearance because here's why. If you are lean and mentally sharp, what does that say about your architecture? Your physical appearance and what you're telling me about your physical habits and your mental habits, I would rather go with you because that tells me that my architecture, I have more faith that you're going to follow through with your details, you're cleaning up the drawings, understanding the big picture and following through with the big picture, right? If you've got the grit and tenacity to wake up at 5:30 a.m. and work out and then do cardio in the evenings, then you've got the grit to actually listen to what I want as a client and implement it.
I fully agree. And thank you for recognizing that. My minimalist approach, you may have seen my videos. I know you did. This uniform is not new to you, right?
Yeah, no.
The black t-shirt. It's what I'm known for, and it's what I wear every single day. It's a choice I don't have to make. So on all my videos, I'm just in a black t-shirt. And that, if you want to call it minimalist, practical approach, is how I approach architecture. This is a house here that most people are not familiar with it, but Albert Frey did a house called the Frey 2 house. You may have seen this picture in the desert, and it's got a rock coming through a glass wall. He took a little house, slid it up, and tucked it in, and the rock protrudes into the building. To me, this house, you walk into it, and it's all of 1,000 square feet. And Albert Frey, who was a very well-known modernist in the Valley, lived, worked all in one basically large room with a kitchen and a bathroom. And you walk in and you can feel the program. It's so powerful. People go in there, and I've been on there in tours during like Modernism Week, and non-architects and people alike go, this is so cool. I could live here. And his approach, and he was a minimalist, streamlined. He was a lean guy. He did his thing. And his approach was represented in his life and his architecture. And he's not super well known, but in the Valley he is. But his piece, it just oozes program that this guy nailed it. And nobody that walks in can figure out why they're attracted to it. And most people, when I've been on tours, go, I could see myself living in this thing. This is really cool. And that doesn't happen when someone walks into a quote McMansion or an oversized thing. They just go, wow, this is really neat. Even the biggest of modern
Yeah.
homes are like, wow, this is cool. But you don't often hear people go, I could really see myself living in this for how small it is. And it is a full throwback to, why bigger, better, more. And for himself, he said, this is what I'm doing. This works for me. And then he even did a addition to the end of this long rectangle when you needed in-home care. Added an extra bedroom and bath for a care person. Done. So he planned it out.
Beautiful. He planned it out.
But yes, the philosophy of, just direct, minimal, focused, I think carries through from someone's physical. Yeah, if I went and saw an architect or even a lawyer who was disheveled, I'd be like, really? Unshaven guy with a scruffy tie that, whatever. You'd be like, wow, this guy's going to keep my legal stuff in order? I don't think so. I want someone a little put together, so.
I mean, you're a walking example of, we treat our architecture so well, right? We spend all this time on our architecture because we're so passionate about it. But I wish architects treated their body just as good as they treated their architecture, because this is our architecture. This is the house that we're living in.
It is. And it may or may not change at any given time. I have a friend, an architect I work for, and I'm in touch with him. He now has ALS, can't use a computer anymore. And we are working on a collaboration where he continues his legacy as the figurehead, and I sort of take over his clientele and provide him with the source of income. Here's your cut. I can help you. It helps me. So, and he was as vigorous and physical as anybody you could imagine. He's a surfer and did all his things. And now has these challenges. And so who knows when that could happen to any of us, right? So taking care of it in the meantime is the best thing I can do for, quote, future-proofing my body for what's coming next.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Scott, what's one thing I would love to talk to you forever. We have so much in common that we didn't even delve into. I feel like we just touched the top of the iceberg on this one.
Yeah.
But it feels good to know that another architect is out there like myself and has like-minded ideas and philosophies and ideologies about our body and the health and wellness within the industry. But what is one thing you would tell a young architect if you could talk to them today about their health and wellness?
At the core, and this is something Stephen Covey says, you got a compass in life and you got a clock in life. So the clock is those tasks, those things I need to do every day, activities, goals, deadlines, schedules, commitments. Over here, the paradigm is there's a compass. That compass is my vision, my values, my morals, my philosophies, what I want to do or be. Don't just focus on the clock list of tasks. Set your compass up first and then make the clock match the compass.
And everything else follows. That is awesome. I think I'm going to get a compass tattoo after that. So,
And I will give credit to Stephen Covey for that, somebody I've listened to for decades. But it makes sense, I mean, if I think about it in the core, it's like, there's my compass doing one thing, and some people haven't thought, what is my compass pointing to? What's true north in my life?
oh gosh, I love that analogy. What's true north? I love that.
And if you set it, it's like, I might do this, but I know which way north is.
Oh, that's good. That's really good.
And there might be a little deviation. And that true north, whether it's, any of those paradigms, whether it's outside of the work, there's the paradigm for myself, my physical, my relationship, those other ones, set a compass in each one and go,
Yeah.
How do I get there and there's going to be lessons learned on the way.
Yeah.
Oh, and I would tell people younger, don't be there. I don't define it as failure. I learned that in my, some of my classes I took. If I look at it as a lesson, it's an opportunity to learn. And I forget the exact whatever they say. Edison didn't fail at making a light bulb 999 times. He figured 999 ways not to make a light bulb. In the 1,000th time or whatever it was, he made a light bulb. So in my case, it's like, hey, whether it's the relationships or the things in career, those are experiences. And I did learn the most from the worst architects I worked for. As in what, like, hey, mistakes on you, your time, your dime. Good, I'm never going to make that one.
No, exactly.
And if your own compass is already set, all the better. I've worked at firms where I was asked to literally cheat on budget and schedule to get a client to sign up. And my own compass said, I'm walking away from this job. Somebody else might have said, my clock says I need that money. And if I didn't have the compass, I might have just stayed there. And then I might have gotten a little corrupt myself, right? And said, it's good money, you know? So pick a compass and pick a clock, but reverse the paradigm.
I love
reverse
that.
the paradigm.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'll send you a picture of my tattoo of my compass.
Yeah.
And let you
All
know.
right.
Well, Scott, where can my audience find you? On social media or your website or?
Social media is Form 64 Architecture and form64.com.
Awesome.
The 64, for any of you doing the math, is the year I was born. And you're the Mustang. And it might have been a book, The Form, Shape, and Order by Ching. It was a book we all had in school. So at that time, form, to shape,
Yeah.
So Form 64 is where easy enough to remember for an architect. Form64.com.
I love it. It's a catchy name. Well, thank you, Scott, so much for being on this podcast.
I'm honored and appreciate you giving me the chance to chat.
Absolutely. Thank you, Scott. You have a wonderful day. Architects, this podcast is the culmination of the most creative minds in the world. The planning and programming of this content is extensive, and I'm proud to be a small part of the change that's happening in our profession. If you want to be a part of this change, the very best thank you can give The Healthy Architect is giving us a 5-star review and sharing this episode with a colleague. When you give us a 5-star review and you share this podcast, you are playing a role in changing our industry, one architect at a time. Be happy, be healthy, and take action towards a more fulfilling career. See you next week on the Healthy Architect Podcast.